The dead man called 911 3 hours after police confirmed his body. That's the part people always focus on first, and, honestly, I get it. If somebody had told me that story before I lived through it, I would have assumed there was some simple explanation. Wrong timestamp, mistaken identity, some internet creep making fake holes. But I heard the recording myself later, and the voice on that call was definitely Owen Marsh. Same slight stutter when he got nervous. Same habit of breathing too close to the phone. Same exact voice from the interview I'd done with him 2 days earlier. At the time, I was working nights as a junior producer for a local true crime podcast in Colorado Springs. Small team. Mostly unsolved disappearances, fraud cases, missing hikers, that kind of thing. Nothing huge. Oling reached out through our website claiming he had information about an old murder from 1998 involving a woman named Clara Bell. Her case had gone cold for years after she vanished during a snowstorm outside Playbo. Nobody paid much attention to Owen's email initially because we got weird tips constantly, but then he attached photos that had never been released publicly. Crime scene photos. Clara's abandoned car buried in snow. A close-up of her bracelet found near the highway. Even our host, Gavin, got unsettled seeing them because some images came directly from sealed police archives. Owen insisted he wasn't involved in the murder. Said he found a storage box abandoned in a foreclosed property he cleaned out for work. He agreed to meet me in person because Gavin refused to do late-night interviews anymore after getting stalked by some conspiracy guy. I met Owen at a 24-hour diner near Interstate 25 around midnight on a Thursday. First thing I noticed was how exhausted he looked. Not drugged, just worn down like somebody who hadn't slept properly in weeks. He kept checking the windows while talking. Every few minutes he'd stop mid-sentence and stare toward the parking lot. At one point I asked if he was expecting someone. He answered, too fast. No. Then immediately changed the subject. He slid a manila envelope across the table, containing printed photographs and photocopied police notes from Clara's investigation. Real documents. Some even had evidence tags visible. I asked where he got them exactly. He hesitated before saying, "The guy who owned the storage unit wasn't supposed to still have them." That wording bothered me instantly. Not, didn't know. Not, forgot. Wasn't supposed to. Before I could push further, Owen leaned closer and lowered his voice. You ever notice how certain cases disappear from the news too fast? I remember laughing awkwardly because it sounded like paranoid internet nonsense. But Owen didn't smile. Clara Bell wasn't the only one, he said. There were 3 others connected to the same property. Then he wrote an address on a napkin. Just outside Pueblo County. Old farmhouse, supposedly abandoned since the early 2000s. He told me if anything happened to him, I needed to give the address directly to Detective Ruiz with county homicide, not local police, specifically Ruiz. Then he asked something weird. If somebody calls you from my phone after tomorrow, don't answer. That sentence stuck with me because his tone changed completely saying it. Quiet, serious, almost embarrassed. We wrapped up around 1:30 a.m. I watched Owen leave the diner parking lot in an older silver Subaru with a broken left taillight. 20 minutes later, he was dead, at least according to police reports. Around 2:14 a.m., State Patrol responded to a single vehicle crash off Highway 115. Owen's Subaru had slammed through a guardrail into a drainage embankment. Fire crews pronounced him dead at the scene from blunt force trauma. End of story, right? Except things got strange immediately afterward. I found out because Detective Ruiz himself called our office around sunrise, asking about Owen. Apparently my business card was found in his jacket pocket. Ruiz sounded irritated from the beginning. Not grieving, not even curious, just tense. He asked whether Owen gave me any documents. I lied and said no, because something about his tone felt wrong. There was a long pause before Ruiz quietly said, "If he contacts you again, you call me immediately." Those exact words. Not, if anyone contacts you using his phone. If he contacts you. I almost asked what that meant, but Ruiz hung up first. Around noon, I listened back through my diner interview recording while organizing files. That's when I noticed something strange buried under the audio. During one point where Owen pauses to stare outside, there's another voice faintly audible near the entrance. Male voice, calm, saying, "He knows you took them." Owen visibly reacts right after, looking toward the windows again. I honestly hadn't noticed it during the interview itself. The diner security footage later showed nobody standing near our booth at that moment. By evening, our podcast office got broken into. No forced entry, alarm never triggered. Whoever entered ignored expensive equipment completely and went straight for my desk drawer containing Owen's copied documents. Only problem was I'd already taken them home. Nothing else stolen. My apartment felt wrong the second I walked inside that night. Front door still locked, nothing overturned, but small things had moved. Kitchen chair angled differently, that's from white on. And the envelope from Owen no longer sitting where I left it beside my laptop. I found it minutes later inside my freezer, underneath a bag of frozen vegetables. I still don't understand that. While checking the apartment, my phone rang from an unknown number. I answered automatically, expecting work. Static crackled for maybe 4 seconds before Owen whispered, "Did Ruiz ask for the photos?" My whole body locked up. I couldn't even speak initially, because the voice was unmistakable. Same nervous breathing, same stutter on the word photos. I finally managed asking how he got this number. He ignored me completely. "You need to leave your apartment," he said. "There's somebody in the hallway." Then the call disconnected. I looked through the peephole immediately. Empty hallway. But maybe 10 seconds later, footsteps echoed from the stairwell outside. Slow, heavy, somebody stopping near my door. Then silence. No knock. Nothing. I stood there holding my breath probably a full minute before another sound came. My apartment doorknob turning slowly from the outside. Once, then again harder. I backed away instinctively, grabbing the fireplace poker like that would somehow help. The knob stopped moving after maybe 15 seconds. Then footsteps walked away down the hall. I barely slept that night. Next morning, I finally looked through all of Owen's documents carefully. Most related to Clarabelle's original investigation, but mixed in were newer photographs too. Surveillance screenshots, parking lot images, license plates. One photo showed Owen himself exiting the diner from our meeting only hours before his crash, meaning somebody had already been following him. Another image froze my stomach immediately. It showed Detective Ruiz standing outside the farmhouse address Owen gave me, timestamp from only 3 weeks earlier. I called Gavin after that, insisting we go to police together. He told me to relax, because sleep deprivation was getting to me. Then he casually mentioned something I hadn't told him yet. "Ruiz already picked up the documents from your apartment anyway." I asked what he meant. Gavin said Ruiz stopped by the office earlier claiming I turned evidence over voluntarily. That made no sense because the envelope was still sitting beside me untouched. I opened it again while talking and realized something horrifying. Several photographs were missing now, specifically the ones showing Ruiz near the farmhouse. I know they were there before because I'd looked directly at them maybe 20 minutes earlier. Gavin thought I sounded insane and eventually hung up. Around 8 p.m. that same night, another call came from Owen's number. This time there was road noise in the background. Wind, maybe. He sounded panicked. "They moved her," he whispered. "Under the floor now." Then another voice interrupted farther away saying, "Phone." Owen inhaled sharply after hearing it. "Don't trust." The line cut dead. I drove to the farmhouse address after that. Yeah, terrible idea. But at that point I genuinely thought maybe Owen was alive somehow and hiding. The property sat isolated down a dirt road about 40 minutes outside Pueblo. House half collapsed. Windows boarded. No nearby neighbors. My headlights caught another vehicle already parked there though. Unmarked dark SUV. Empty when I arrived. Front door to the farmhouse stood partially open. I remember hearing a generator humming faintly somewhere behind the building. Inside, smelled like mold and wet wood. Flashlight barely cut through the darkness. The floor creaked constantly under me. Then I saw fresh muddy footprints leading toward the kitchen. 2 different sizes, one heavier than the other. Near the kitchen doorway sat a police evidence marker. Yellow plastic number 7. Real one. Not old either. Clean. Recently placed. My chest started pounding immediately, because suddenly the entire place felt occupied. Then I heard voices below me. Basement maybe. Couldn't make out words initially. I crept closer toward a cellar door near the pantry. One voice definitely belonged to Ruiz, calm, controlled. Another sounded terrified. Nail, possibly Owen. I know how impossible that sounds considering the crash, but I swear it sounded like him. Before I could process any of it, a floorboard snapped loudly beneath my foot. Silence downstairs instantly. Then somebody shouted, "Who's up there?" I ran. Didn't think, didn't investigate, just turned and sprinted through the house toward the front entrance. I heard movement crashing behind me almost immediately. Heavy footsteps. Somebody coming upstairs fast. I made it outside seconds before another flashlight beam swept across the doorway behind me. I dove into my car and reversed so fast I nearly hit the SUV. While pulling away, I glanced once toward the upstairs window of the farmhouse. Someone stood there watching me. Not Ruiz. Owen. Bloody bandage wrapped around part of his forehead. He raised one hand slowly against the glass before the lights inside shut off completely. Police questioned me 2 days later because the farmhouse burned down overnight. Electrical fire, officially. Entire structure collapsed before firefighters arrived. Ruiz conducted the interview personally. He acted strangely polite now. Almost friendly. Asked why I'd trespassed on condemned property. Asked whether Owen ever mentioned leaving town. Then he slid a photograph across the table, showing the crash scene. Owen's body covered beside the wrecked Subaru. "You understand grief can distort memory," Ruiz said quietly. "The thing is, the dead man in the photo wasn't Owen. Similar build maybe, similar hair, but not him. Even half covered in blood I could tell immediately." Ruiz watched my face carefully while I stared at it, like he was measuring whether I'd say something. I didn't. I just nodded and left. 3 months later, Detective Ruiz disappeared while driving alone through New Mexico during an unrelated investigation. Vehicle found abandoned near a rest stop. Wallet inside. Phone still charging. No sign of Ruiz himself. Officially still missing. Last week, almost 2 years after all this happened, our podcast email received a single attachment from an anonymous account. No message, just audio. 37 seconds long. At first it sounds like static and wind. Then footsteps crunching across gravel. Then a car door opening. Finally a man's voice whispers very clearly into the microphone. "Tell them to stop looking under the farmhouse." It was Owen's voice. And right before the recording ends, another voice quietly asks him from farther away, "Did they ever identify the body in your car?"